beginning. This is a new start. And as such, it's time to start some new traditions. So we are going to get that up. There we go. We're going to take the next 52 Sundays, the next year, and have a special time of blessing. We're going to pick out a group or groups or individuals that we want to take that time to bless. And we're going to have that time of blessing today. Friday was our Veterans Day. So we're going to take time today to bless those veterans in our church. So if you were a veteran, and would you mind standing up for us so we can recognize you? Okay. Let me have a prayer, word of prayer. Oh Lord God, we praise you for these people here that are standing. We are thankful that you've blessed us with them and with so many things that we are blessed with every day. Lord, today we thank you for these veterans that have protected our freedom to worship even this morning. Lord, we ask for a special blessing for each person here who has given their lives to protecting others and for having to shoulder the burden of fighting on behalf of us. Lord, we thank you for their willingness to serve no matter what their religion, their ideologies, their race, their identity, any of which. They've put those aside to care for all of us. And Lord, we ask that you bless them this week and in the coming weeks to come as we remember them and their service. First, through Jesus Christ's name we pray. Thank you. Thank you all. Wanted to do one thing next. If you were here last week, you heard Cam Brown talking about all that has been put into this building. Well, Cam has put quite a bit into it himself. Individually, him and Carolyn both. And so we would like to present them with a gift for their service. So Cam, Carolyn, if you all wouldn't mind coming up here for just a moment.
Oh, I'm going to cry today.
Can't always get what you want.
Sorry.
They have given countless and countless hours of their time, of their resources, of just the willingness to set aside family time for church time, for building this place. And so we have given them a gift card to a place to go and spend time amongst themselves, to get away, and to have some time together. So we thank you, we love you both, and we're so thankful for all the time that you put into this place, okay? Couple announcements before we go into the rest of our worship. We are having an open house today from 2 to 4 for the community. So if you know someone that would really like to see this place and see what we've done and what's been done for us, then please invite them out between 2 and 4. We'll have some finger foods and some refreshments that do not come in here. So stay in the fellowship hall. Hopefully that will continue from week to week. But please, 2 to 4, invite them out for that. And then, as you're inviting them out to that, from 6 to 7:30, in the bulletin it was printed incorrectly, it's 6 to 7:30 is the community meal. And so this time will be a time where a bunch of us churches, there's about 10 to 12 other churches have come together, and we are just going to supply the community with a meal. It's free of charge, just a time of fellowship, a time to give thanks for what we have to be thankful for. So that'll be from 6 to 7:30 today. Also, right after the service, the planning committees that were in charge of the open house will be meeting to set up for that. So, Barbara, where do they need to meet?
In the fellowship.
In the fellowship hall. There you go. So please be there for that if you were on the planning committee. Also, Wednesday night at 7:30, we're going to have a budget and finance after dinner and Bible study. Dinner this week is at 6, and then Bible study will be at 6:45, and then we'll have a budget and finance meeting at 7:30. Are there any other announcements that I might have missed this morning? By the way, we had a great time at the beach, so most of us are still recovering, but it was a good time by all. I did want to read a thank you note from Garrett and Jenny Lee. It says, First Baptist Church, Garrett and I would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to everyone who donated items for the hurricane relief effort at the pancake dinner in lieu of a baby shower. We've been extremely blessed as we have prepared for our little one, and there are many families currently struggling to provide the basics for their children. We know they are incredibly appreciative of your generosity. Thanks again, Jenny Lee. And they have a new baby. It happened last week, and Maddox is doing good. Yeah, your nights are still mixed.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Thank you guys for that.
Josh, the love offering.
Yes. We are going to be taking up a love offering for the meal. The meal was catered, so we had to pay for it. So we're going to ask anybody that wants to give a donation to that, you can do so on Wednesday or next Sunday morning. So if anybody would like to chip in for that, that would be great. Any other announcements?
I have a Thanksgiving
Yeah.
and a prayer request.
Yeah.
Last Sunday, as you know, was such an emotional day for all of us. I cried the whole time. I'm not going to cry now. I've doubled up on my medication today. But about 2 o'clock Sunday morning, I woke up with this heaviness in my heart. And I felt like I needed to talk to my daughter, Dana. So I called, and I was told she was on her way to the hospital by ambulance. She had a baby boy at 26 weeks, 2 pounds, 2 ounces, 13 inches long. But they're both doing well. He's doing, as the doctor said, he's doing everything he's supposed to be doing at his age. So, and some of you probably seen pictures of him. He's doing really well. And so I thank my God for that. But just keep her in your prayers. And bless all of you.
You've got a lot to do. Okay. What other congregational concerns and Thanksgivings might we have? Chris?
I was going to say, I'll echo your sentiment of having a good time at the beach. I think all of us that went, we say a special thank you to Barbara Smith for riding us around. We're on show 4, chauffeur, excuse me. But on the way home yesterday, Barbie and I went through Northborough Beach and we're coming home along Highway 9. In the area near the Lumber River Basin, especially the towns of Nichols and Mullins, you just drive through, and about every house in the community had ruined furniture sitting in front of it and a yellow tag on the door. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I know it can't be good. There's nobody in the community hardly that we saw, so we need to pray for those folks in northeastern South Carolina. I know also right across the border in North Carolina as well. Tough time for those folks.
Definitely. Thank you, Chris. I want to make y'all aware Florence is home, by the way. She came home on Tuesday this past week and is doing really well. She's doing really well, so that's a big praise. What other prayer requests or Thanksgivings do we have today? Yeah.
Of course, when my family comes into Florida, I'm thankful for the past two. One thing about the church, it's been a while since I was part of any of this, when we had our meeting on building, came down the other day, in the middle of the day, and to bring something to someone. There was people painting and working everywhere, and I don't know how many people have been involved, evidently a lot. And everything is so pretty, and I'd like to just say thank you to be part of it for what you've done. And I have a pretty silent patch. I'm not gonna call it current patch because it's a big patch, but anybody wants some, you know where Bob lives at. So.
Thank you, Bobby. Anyone else? For request for Thanksgiving? Okay, let's go to a little prayer. Lord our God, we are thankful for this day. Lord, we're thankful that we can be in this brand new place and that this is a new start for us, but that you've been with us every step of the way. Lord, we're thankful for that, and we're thankful for your presence amongst us today and every day that we try to do your work here on earth. And Lord, we thank you for the community that you've established here, that we can seek out those who have needs, who need to be loved and to have grace shown to them. And we thank you that we can take part in that. But we ask for these concerns and thanksgivings that they be lifted up to you. And we ask that each of them, in their own special way, be touched by your will. Lord, we thank you for Jesus the Christ, who gave us such a great example while living on earth, and we thank you that he taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Would you join me now to read responsibly from our bulletin, our call to worship. Come, guide our worship, O Lord, for there is none like you. You are great and do wondrous things, for you alone are God. Teach us your way, O Lord, that we may walk in the truth. Open our ears that we may hear your call. Open our hearts that we may heed that call and be your faithful followers. Come, guide our worship, O Lord, for there is none like you. If you stand as we sing our choral call to worship, I Love You, Lord, page 362. Please stand as we sing.
Reading of the New Testament lesson in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 6 through 13. Now we command you, beloved, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, to keep away from believers who are living in idleness and not according to the tradition that they receive from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us. We were not idle when we were with you, and we did not eat anyone's bread without paying for it. But with toil and labor we worked night and day, so that we might not burden any of you. This was not because we do not have that right, but in order to give you an example to imitate. For even when we were with you, we gave you this command: anyone unwilling to work should not eat. For we hear that some of you are living in idleness, mere busybodies, not doing any work. Now such persons we command and exhort in the Lord Jesus Christ to do their work quietly and to earn their own living. Brothers and sisters, do not be weary in doing what is right.
There was one thing I wanted to let you all make you aware of. On the end of the roads, there are welcome fellowship hats. There's little black ones on the insides of the roads. If you all would just pass that, and as we go throughout this worship service, just to get some, we want to get some information, some prayer requests from you as well. So just please fill that out and then tear them out for the offering. And when the offering for is going through. Would you stand as we sing our hymn, Come All Christians Be Committed, verses 1, 2, and 3. Please stand as we sing. Invite all the children to come forward for the children's message with Miss Brandy.
Good morning, boys and girls. How are you? Good. How many of you had to make a choice this morning? Did you have to make a choice this morning? Like, did you have to decide what you were going to eat for breakfast? Yeah. Did you have to decide what clothes you were going to wear? Yeah. Do you have to make choices when you go to school? Yeah, you do. You have to decide if you're going to listen to your teachers, right? Or if you're not going to listen to your teachers? Or if you're going to do your homework or not do your homework, right? Yeah. Choices are hard sometimes, aren't they? Yeah. Well, we always have to make, is it always easy to make the good choice? Yeah. It is? It's easy for you to make the good choice all the time? Yeah? I don't know about that. Sometimes it's not so easy, is it? Sometimes we don't want to do our homework, do we? No, I didn't always want to do my homework. Do you always want to do your homework, Courtney? No, but we have to, don't we? So it's not always easy to make the good choice or the right choice, but we have to do it anyway. And we have to do it, and we have to remember how. Do you know how we can remember how? We can use a light. Is this light really bright right now? It's not very bright right now, is it? And did you know that in the Bible, we call Jesus the light of the world? Did you know that was the name for Jesus? Because Jesus always made the right choice, didn't he? And he helps us to make the right choice. But sometimes, because he's in our heart, the light isn't always very bright. So it's not always really easy to see what the right choice is. But we can ask Jesus to help us, right? And guess what? Every time we make the right choice, that light gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and we can see it more easily. So anytime you have any question about making the good choice or the right choice, you can think of the light of the world, and you can think of Jesus, and he'll help us. Let's say a prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for sending us Jesus. Thank you for giving us the light of the world to help us see the good decisions we should make every day. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
You have the prayer of confession with me this morning. Most merciful God, we confess that we have sinned against you in thought, word, and deed. We have not loved you with our whole heart. We have not loved our neighbors as ourselves. We pray you, in your mercy, forgive what we have been, amend what we are, direct what we shall be, that we may delight in your will and walk in your ways, giving thanks in all circumstances through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Hear the good news. In the name of Jesus, you are forgiven. In the name of Jesus, you are forgiven. Let us pray. Lord our God, we thank you for the opportunity to be in your house on this Lord's Day. Lord, we are so thankful for a new building and a fresh start to use it where you see fit. Lord, we ask that out of this fresh start come an excitement to do your work here on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, help us not to be idle in doing what is right, and allow us to seek out your will in all that we strive to do. Lord, help us as we go from one day to the next, and as we strive to make this world more like the next through your mercy and your love and your grace. Lord, we thank you for forgiving us when we make mistakes, and that your arms are always open for those who are ready to repent. Lord, we thank you for this day and the fact that we are here in your presence, in your house, together. First, through the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. Would you stand again as we sing our offertory hymn, Take My Life and Let It Be Consecrated, verses 1, 2, and 3. Please stand as we sing.
as we enter this season of Thanksgiving and Christmas, help us all to realize that we have so much to share. Our strengths, our talents, and our assets. And we ask that you take these tithes and offerings, bless them, and multiply them, and use them in the furtherance of your kingdom. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Hear the reading of the Old Testament lesson from Isaiah chapter 65, verses 17 through 25. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Jerusalem as a joy, and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard in it, or the cry of distress. No more shall there be in it an infant that lives but a few days, or an old person who does not live out a lifetime. For one who dies at 100 years will be considered a youth, and one who falls short of 100 will be considered accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For like the days of a tree shall the days of my people be, and my chosen shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain or bear children for calamity, for that they shall be offspring blessed by the Lord, and their descendants as well. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, but the serpent, its food shall be dust. They shall not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, says the Lord.
So as school comes to a close each year, there's this terrible disease that hits most graduating seniors in high school. It's a temporarily debilitating disease that lasts until probably the first day of college classes or the first day of the workforce. It's called senioritis. The common symptoms of this disease are apathy, unnecessary confidence, and an overall lack of common sense. And it plagues millions of kids every year, and I'm here to tell you that I too once had senioritis. But thankfully, because of multiple C's and my Old Testament professor in my first year of college, my senioritis is in remission. But many are still fighting this disease every day. Even some of our own youth, I'm sure. But there are things you can do to help those struggling with this disease. Tell them that what they do today will affect what happens in the future. Tell them that they are building habits that will affect them in some way down the road. And whatever you do, do not tell them that their final grades have already been submitted and that anything they do from that point forward is busy work. That's what my mom did, and that's how I got senioritis. Be vigilant, be brave, and be on time for stuff. That's what we can tell them. And so thank you for listening to this public service announcement about senioritis. We'll now return you to our regularly scheduled sermon. The second part, in the second letter to the church at Thessalonica, and specifically the third chapter, there is present in this midst of the congregation something like senioritis. That's what's going on. And the writing of the letter is debated, but ranges from about 50s AD to the 60s. So needless to say, this is shortly after Jesus' death, the burial, and resurrection. But for that congregation, it probably seemed like ages as they were waiting for Jesus to come back. So in their understanding of Jesus' teachings, he was supposed to come back for all believers with the end of the age to follow very soon. But that hadn't happened yet. So many of the people have completely washed their hands of the world. They quit their jobs. They quit worrying about day-to-day tasks. And they did this all so they could, for a good reason, so they could preach in public places. But the letter to the Thessalonians then, it's there to encourage and urge these people to continue doing the good work of helping people, of being in community, of caring for one another. And so this is the context of the passage that was read earlier. And many in the community of Christ in Thessalonica have become complacent and apathetic, and their senioritis was really kicking in. But instead of the ending of high school, it was kind of the end of the world they were getting complacent about. So what they missed was that whether or not Jesus was coming sooner rather than later, people still needed to be cared for. The nearness of Jesus' return did not or does not currently negate how we treat one another. In the Thessalonians, they needed to be reminded that we as Christ followers, we're not a self-selected special interest group. We're not a social club. We are God's chosen vehicle of light and grace to the world. So the question they needed to answer was, what light do we cast beyond our doors? And the same for us today. What light do we cast past these walls and these doors? What do our words, our actions, our ministries do to shine the light of Christ far out into the community? And just in the last couple of months, I called a meeting with those churches that are still financially contributing to the Montgomery County Churches in Action. There were only 5 of us that still gave to the fund, not including individuals. But I asked a group of 5 ministers what we wanted the MCCA to look like, and if we still wanted to be simply paying people's bills. And every one of us, myself included, wanted the money to go a little further and have more impact on the community. And so we determined that each of our churches have some sort of benevolence fund that we could use to help those that are really in crisis. And we decided that we were going to take steps to cast the light of MCCA a little further into the community. And we decided to put together this free community meal as one of the first things that we can do to let people know that the churches in this community care for them, even if they don't go to our church. And over the next few months, we're going to decide what to do from there. We're going to try to address some needs in the community. But the Thessalonians community, they were experiencing idleness. We're trying not to get to that point with MCCA. They were apathetic to helping people because they thought there was no point since Jesus was coming back soon. However, there was still work to be done, and there were people that needed to do it. And so the burden of being the church, it should never be placed on just a few shoulders. You know, when I was looking for a pastor, I filled out a minister matching profile on the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship website, and it matches you up with different churches, and you all were a match for me, obviously. The program asked a number of questions, but one really stood out to me. And asked me, what is the role of the pastor in the church? And it gave two options. It said, one essentially was that the pastor makes all the decisions and doesn't delegate any duties to the people. The second one, the one I chose, was that the pastor collaboratively leads the congregation to make decisions for itself. There's basically a one-stop shop pastor, or a pastor that doesn't need to be in control of everything. And I've been a minister that had to be in control of everything, and I got burned out because I felt like I had to do it all, and that's not what I wanted again. And so because the church is supposed to be a congregationally led, if you have a good idea that is consistent with the ministry of this church, please share it. Please let us know. I would love to discuss it with you about how we get that going. If there's a need that's being met that I don't see in the community, then we need to put some work into it to make it a reality. My only rule is, if you suggest it, you're going to head it up. It's the only rule I got for you. But the people at Thessalonica were not putting in that extra work. They weren't congregationally led. They were just a few people trying to hold on. And so they were commanded, in the passage read earlier, to be better, to grow as a congregation. So we are tasked to the same command that the people in Thessalonica were back then. Rebecca and I were talking this past Monday after the dedication service about how this building gives us a fresh start. And it does. But with a fresh start, there comes a lot of needs. We have a big need, for instance, with getting the nursery and everything going with the kids. Every Sunday we have at least 2 to 3 kids 2 years or younger. We need help there. We need a good number of people to come in and rotate in and out of that nursery to help teach. During the rebuilding effort, we didn't have that need, essentially, because we didn't have room for anything like that. Just the last week or so, we added, Garrett and Jenny's baby boy, Maddox. In a couple months, we'll add one, which is mine. So we need to get people down there. But now, this is a good problem to have, that we got babies coming and that we got kids coming. This is a good thing to have. But it's still a problem that needs to be worked on. As we go about doing the work of the church, fulfilling God's commands out, we also have to realize that in community relationships, they sometimes get strained. Sometimes those relationships need, as I used to call them, a come to Jesus conversation. And I used to have this with my youth frequently. This kind of conversation is like Jesus. It's truth, but also grace. The Thessalonians needed to have a come to Jesus conversation with those who had become idle. They were no longer helping the congregation, thus were burdening the entire congregation. Here in the Bible Belt, if people aren't happy with their church for whatever reason, they can leave and really just march across the street to another church. In the days of the early church, that's not how it was, because there was such a small number of churches early on. So every member of the fellowship was important and crucial to the ministry of the church as a whole. So instead of making the idle member here leave, the Thessalonians, the people of the Thessalonians, they chose grace. And they were encouraged not to imitate them. That was all. But if you reread the passage, it doesn't say that they're ousting people or kicking people out the doors or anything like that. It's just not to imitate them. To me, that's an encouraging idea. You know, that they didn't kick them out, that they were offering repentance and grace there instead. You know, it's an idea that we try to encourage our kids to understand and not imitate their friends. And I try to tell Joel that too. You can only control your own actions, and whether you're doing something you shouldn't or reacting to something someone else did, you are responsible for what you do. The Thessalonians were commanded to take responsibility for the actions that were being done as a church as a whole and who they imitated. But the last verse in this is the final encouragement to the Thessalonians, and even us today. It says, "Do not be weary in doing what is right." Doing what is right is the goal, but doing it consistently, that's the hard part. There are days when we have experienced such frustrations and seen injustices and we lose hope. We say to ourselves, what's the point of doing what's right when everything and everyone else is acting so wrong? I mean, it's at that time that we need to hear the words that were read earlier from Isaiah 65 about the place we're trying to make this world more like. Because God, through the prophet Isaiah, gives us an incredible description of what's to come that gives us an inspiration to endure. As 2 Thessalonians says. The word create in verse 17 of Isaiah 65, it's the same Hebrew word in Genesis 1:1, bara. And that word means to create. In fact, the Isaiah verse echoes almost exactly the phrasing of Genesis 1:1. It's as if God is indicating that this new heaven and this new earth that is coming will be part of an ongoing creation story. This is just the next step. It's not that God will simply fix what was wrong here, but it will be a place that is completely wholly better. Throughout the passage, God says yes and no to several things, but both yeses and no's, they are positive in what they will bring for those in the new heaven and new earth. And there will be gladness and rejoicing, there will be delight and joy. There will be full lives, not simply long lives, but lives that are full of happiness and substance. And in those full lives, we will all become home builders and farmers. Because no one will be homeless and hungry ever again. And poverty and need will be another thing that's just left here. There will be productive and meaningful work that is not tiresome, but at the same time will include restful retirement. God will answer prayers before they are uttered out of our mouths, and there will be peace. Predators and prey will live peacefully, and really after the past week of division that we've seen, I think we can all get behind that part of it. But that's not all. It's even better. It says our memories of fear, of anger, of disappointment, of brokenness, that'll all be forgotten. Those scars and struggles that color how we look at the world are not even going to come into our minds. Our ears will not hear weeping, and the word here used isn't like crying in like a sad movie or anything like that. It's the full-bodied cry of grief that just leaves us exhausted. That's gone. That's no more. And lives will not be torn away from us so quickly without reason or understanding. The phrase, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, that's actually going to become true. And our work will not be in vain. Life will be bloom and will replace hurt and destruction. And when I was growing up, I had a different view of heaven. It was one painted by cartoons and children's stories. Even now, you can see most people probably have the view, this same view. This is kind of the day in my mind, of heaven when I was a kid. We would wake up with these new and sculpted bodies that didn't have pain or pudginess. And it would often include us lounging on clouds, looking down on people of earth like they were a soap opera or reality TV show. We would watch attentively from above until it was our turn to sing praises to God. It was our shift. And we would watch it too. Oh, and then the song in my mind, it was always sounding like the Hallelujah chorus. That was kind of the ongoing song. And then when the angels weren't on their guardian angel shift, they would come and join us. And then it was time to retire to our mansions. And we would we would walk down the golden streets, still listening to that same song, the Hallelujah chorus, over and over. And we passed all the white picket fences. So we made it to our mansion that's bigger than the Biltmore Estate. We would have St. Peter or St. Paul over to dinner, but not at the same time because they probably wouldn't like each other. And then finally slip off into a wonderful dream of really sheep jumping over that picket fence or something. And then we would wake and do it all over again for eternity. Now looking back, I'm sure it really sounded great in my head and wonderful. But now I'm left really thinking, is that really it? Is that all we're going to be doing? Do all we have to look forward to is just a toned body in a big house while singing the same song for eternity? Is that all we got? And I think there's more. And here, Isaiah, we kind of see it. There's depth, there's substance, there's purpose in this new heaven and new earth that we won't know until we get to God's kingdom. But we can't see it if we're idle with what God has called us to today. Part of that calling is to make this world have more depth and substance and purpose than it currently does. It's to ensure that the anger and the resentment and the fear that plagues us every day in this world, it doesn't engulf us. It doesn't take us over. It's relieving the sadness and brokenness in our neighbors so they can see just a fraction of Jesus Christ in us. It's creating a foundation of love and grace and kindness that isn't limited by who we consider us and who we consider them. Yes, we stand up for injustices and against idleness, but we leave open the door for both parties in those situations to repent. But our calling is to shape the current day situation, to be more like that of the next. Marcus Borg writes that being Christian is not about meeting requirements for a future reward in an afterlife. The Christian life is about relationship with God that transforms life in the present. So as we transform life in the present, Dr. Bruce Epperly says we need to be on God's side. We need to dream and then act toward the world God imagines. A world that is almost impossible to visualize, but our only hope for the future: long life, security, happy homes, fruitful vineyards and gardens, laughing children, and peace among opponents. But more importantly, people's hearts will return to God, enabling God to speak within them. They will experience a divine vision for humankind, will respond affirmatively, fulfilling their role as God's companions in healing the earth. I mean, it's a big calling. It's a difficult one. But with God's help and together, I think we have a good shot at it. Because we have each other, we have Jesus Christ to help shoulder the burden. And that's the most important part of it all. So today, if you've never accepted Jesus the Christ as your Lord and Savior, we invite you to do so. If you would like to join our church through transfer of letter or baptism, we invite you to do that as well. If you simply need prayer for a situation going on in life, I'll be down front as we sing our closing hymn. But God is calling us to not be idle, but be constantly working towards making this world more like the world to come. What is your response to that challenge today? We'll be singing our closing hymn, Take My Life, Lead Me Forward, page 494. Please come as we sing. making this world more like the one to come. Hear now our benediction. O Lord, as we go, may we leave not being idle for the work you have given us. May we leave knowing that forgiveness will always be present through the grace found in Jesus Christ. And may we go seeking to make this world more like the new heavens and new earth to come.